fight that any one country, no matter how powerful, can take alone.
It looks like President Obama's charm doesn't work on everyone. While bidding farewell to G20 leaders in Hangzhou, China, he reminded them that we are living in turbulent time. Obama's sentiments seem to be echoing some truth, as he is not only confronting regimes in Russia, China, and North Korea that are at times openly hostile to Washington, or at least willing to make clear they don't want to play by its rules, but recently President Obama has even gotten pushback from allies, most notably Turkey and the Philippines.
A planned meeting between President Barack Obama and Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte turned into an international spat after Duterte had some choice words about America's foreign policy. Obama and Duterte are both scheduled to attend the Association of Southeast Asian Nations conference, and Duterte's recent criminal justice reforms are expected to be a hot topic of conversation. Before he was elected, Duterte promised he would allow regular citizens to take up arms and kill any drug dealers they found. As the mayor of Davao City, he even admitted he took part in the extrajudicial killings.
I must admit that I have killed. 3 months early on, I killed about 3 people.
Killing someone without a trial is obviously concerning, especially when it's for nonviolent drug offenses. Obama was expected to discuss that policy with Duterte during a meeting, but the Philippine president made it clear he isn't interested in listening. When a reporter asked what he would say if Obama criticized that policy, he responded,
"Who is he? I am a president of a sovereign state, and we have long ceased to be a colony. I do not have any master except the Filipino people. You must be respectful."
Duterte switched to his native language to make his position even more clear.
Son of a bitch, I'll curse you in front of everybody.
Tell that to everybody.
Now, Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has proclaimed a state of national emergency, saying it is needed to suppress violence in Mindanao and prevent it from spreading elsewhere in the country. Now, officials say the proclamation will remain in force until it is lifted by the president. They say it's a stepped-up police and military campaign to ensure public safety and that it gives due regard to fundamental and civil political rights. Duterte had declared a state of lawlessness following a blast that killed 14 people in his hometown, Davao City. This authorized the military and the police to run the country.
The day started well for Nicolas Maduro. He inaugurated over 100 houses that the government has restored on the island of Margarita. This country's leftist leadership is proud of its social housing record. But Margarita, like the entire country, has other serious problems. In the midst of the world's steepest recession, food lines are common, medicine and even water is scarce. Shortly after the president's daytime events had ended, he entered the island's traditionally pro-government stronghold of Villa Rosa. It was here that the mood changed. The crowd began to jeer him, banging pots and pans, a traditional Venezuelan form of protest.
No había pasado esta crisis tan grave que tenemos.
Brazilian police forces have clashed with demonstrators who have taken to the streets of Sao Paulo to show their opposition to the new president, Michel Temer.
The coup d'etat that is happening in our country is not only to remove an elected president, but is against the majority of the Brazilian people.
Police used water cannons, tear gas, and stun grenades to confront thousands of angry protesters who called for immediate resignation of Temer. Several injuries and arrests were reported. A similar rally was also held in the capital city of Brasilia. Temer officially took office on August the 31st after a Senate vote removed former President Dilma Rousseff over charges of abusing power and financial fraud. She has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing.
A group of senior Indian leaders have met Kashmiri leaders in a bid to broker peace in the strife-torn valley. Curfew and a shutdown call for a paralyzed normal life in Indian Kashmir for nearly 60 days. The valley has been under lockdown since 8th of July, when clashes erupted after security forces gunned down separatist militant Bhanwani. 71 people have been killed and more than 6,000 wounded. India has urged its security forces to act with restraint as they try to keep protesters off the streets and quell near daily violence. But some have accused troops of using excessive force.
A date has been set for peace in Colombia. The country's president announces he will sign a peace deal with the FARC rebel group on September 26th. Juan Manuel Santos and longtime foe Timochenko will shake hands and sign a final peace accord at the end of next month. FARC, which is the acronym for the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, has been fighting a 5-decade-long insurgency against the Colombian state, which has killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Multiple bomb attacks in regime-held territories in Syria killed at least 36 people on Monday, according to Syrian state news agency. Blasts were reported in the coastal city of Tartus, at a military checkpoint in the city of Homs, in the suburbs of the capital, Damascus, and in the northeastern city of Hasaka. It was not clear if the blasts were linked, the Associated Press said. The Islamic State group claimed responsibility for the suicide bombing in Hasaka, which killed at least 5 people. Syrian state media said the attacker blew himself up on his motorcycle. The deadliest attack was in Tartus, Syrian state TV reported. A twin bombing killing at least 35 people at the entrance of the city on the coastal highway. Tartus is an important stronghold of the government and home to a major Russian naval base. London-based monitoring group Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the death toll from Monday's attacks was nearing 50.
Afghan officials say back-to-back suicide blasts killed at least 24 people in a crowded area near Kabul's defense ministry. Troops, police, and civilians rushing to help victims in the first explosion were caught in the second. Officials and witnesses say the blast spared no one, including an army general and 2 senior police commanders who were among the dead.
All those killed were poor people and breadwinners for their families. Only innocent people were killed here.
With 91 people injured, officials fear the death toll may still rise. The Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack. It was the deadliest assault in Kabul since a suicide bomber killed at least 80 at a protest in July.
According to dissidents on Monday, Cuba's government is starting to filter mobile phone text messages for keywords such as democracy and human rights, and then blocking them. According to an investigation report by blogger Yoani Sanchez and journalist Ronaldo Escobar, text messages fail to reach their destination if they contain specific words in Spanish, such as the aforementioned words, as well as the names of some dissidents and activist groups. Elisa Rivera participated in the investigation by using words that would be identified by the provider and trigger a block. She said, "We discovered not just us, but the entire country is being censored. It just shows how insecure and paranoid the government is."
Brexit must mean Brexit.
Members of British Parliament are required to consider any petition that receives more than 100,000 signatures for debate, and they just received one with more than 4 million signatures demanding a second Brexit referendum. So Brexit supporters and opponents went head-to-head once again, debating the possibility of a redo in a parliamentary debate Monday. David Lammy, a member of the Labour Party who disagrees with the Brexit decision, claimed the public has been lied to and said a second vote was the only way to avoid a constitutional crisis. Lammy has also suggested that the first Brexit referendum be treated as more of a recommendation, which could be ignored.
Heavy rain is now adding to misery for the more than 4,000 people left homeless by the August 24 quake, living in tents and waiting for temporary wooden homes. Many parts of Amatrice, known as the town of 100 churches, crumbled to pieces when the 6.2 magnitude quake struck. Among the buildings that collapsed, an elementary school that was supposed to have been upgraded to modern anti-quake norms 4 years ago. The National Anti-Corruption Agency is now looking into how that contract was awarded. Last week, Germany offered to rebuild the school, but for now, local authorities are assembling a prefabricated building to allow pupils to go back to school next week.
While overseas in Hangzhou, China, President Obama weighed in on the controversy as well.
He's exercising his constitutional right to make a statement. I think there's a long history of sports figures doing so. I think he cares about some real, legitimate issues that have to be talked about. If nothing else, what he's done is he's generated more conversation around some topics that need to be talked about.
One soccer player is standing, or rather kneeling, with Colin Kaepernick. U.S. women's national team player Megan Rapinoe took a knee on the sidelines during the national anthem of the Seattle Reign FC's game Sunday night. According to American Soccer Now, Rapinoe said the move was, quote, a nod to Kaepernick, and she later added on Twitter that it's the least I can do, keep the conversation going. She later explained to American Soccer Now, quote, being a gay American, I know what it means to look at the flag and not have it protect all of your liberties. Rapinoe is the latest athlete who has decided not to stand for the national anthem. Colin Kaepernick started the gesture to protest police brutality and was joined by his teammate Eric Reed during the final 49ers preseason game.
Now, the world's two largest oil producers, Russia and Saudi Arabia, have agreed on steps to stabilize the global oil output. Russia's oil minister Alexander Novak announced the agreement after a meeting with his Saudi counterpart Khalid al-Faleh on the sidelines of the G20 summit. They said in a joint statement that Moscow and Russia and Riyadh have come to, quote, recognize the need to restrain the excessive volatility of the oil market. The statement added that the production freeze is a measure under consideration. The Russian oil minister, however, noted that Iran should be given the right to reach its pre-sanctions production level. The price of oil jumped upon the Russian-Saudi statement. This comes as 2016 marks one of the worst years for the oil market, with prices of oil falling to historic lows, mainly due to low global demand.
American shoppers are enjoying what could be the longest streak of falling food prices in a half century. That's good if you've got a family to feed, not so good for farmers.
Heather Buen says putting food on the table has gotten easier.
Definitely less painful to go to the store.
The Texas mom tracks what she spends each week and says savings on staples like bread and eggs add up.
I would say I can save anywhere from about $25 to $50 sometimes on my grocery bills in comparison to last year.
The average price of a dozen eggs has dropped from $2.57 a year ago to $1.54, down nearly 40%. A gallon of milk is about 40 cents cheaper. A pound of ground beef down about 50 cents. The reason? The nation's food supplies have been steadily growing while demand has declined in major overseas markets like China, where a strong dollar has made American goods more expensive.
And I'm going to put cheese on it.
It's good for U.S. consumers like Buen, but not food producers like Pete Bonds of Texas, who owns one of the nation's largest cattle operations.
18 months ago, these cows would have been worth $3,000, and they're probably worth $1,500 now.
And so that loss in value for you means?
Several $million.
Several $1 million. Mm-hmm. He says it's a price drop. Smaller ranchers may not survive. The government has already tried to boost the dairy industry by buying $20 million worth of cheese that will now be distributed to food banks. Whether that's enough depends on how long prices remain lower in the grocery aisle. Michael Byers is CEO of Fiesta Mart.
I think that's anybody's guess right now. What we're hearing, it could go on through the end of the year and possibly in the first part of next year.
But not everything is cheaper. Elaine, the price of some fruits and vegetables has actually increased, due in part to a drought in California.
I guess the bees just started attacking everybody. Look, man.
Developing news from Cerritos tonight. A swarm of bees attacked picnickers, sending 3 people to the hospital. Witnesses say at least 20 people were stung. Fire officials confirm that number and say it happened near the tennis court at Cerritos Park, where a family reunion was taking place.
It was thousands. It was thousands. Like this whole grass field was covered with bees. They was chasing hundreds of people.
The more women or men that had long hair, they were just attacking them. It was just so crazy.
Wow, those bees came from inside an underground utility box on the grassy field. No word yet on what made them attack.
One little boy's baptism video is now going viral. His dad posting this video with the caption, "My son gave his life to Jesus today." And clearly his son couldn't wait to do it. Listen.
I now baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit.
He said, "I'll do it." The 6-year-old deciding he already waited long enough and decided to dunk himself. You heard it there, squealing, "I'll do it," before putting his head underwater while the pastor finishes the blessing.
We start our newscast with that little boy out of Santa Fe, Texas, and the thing he did when dropped off for school that made his mother beam with pride.
Hi, Caitlin. I'm at Wallen Elementary School in Santa Fe. The story behind this photograph that went viral on Facebook actually began last Thursday, right here at the doorstep to the school, when Bryce's mother dropped him off. He was a little bit late, so Bryce is racing in to get to school, to get to class, and he hears the Pledge of Allegiance. What does he do? He stops, he says the Pledge of Allegiance, and he also says a prayer, all while Officer Sibby Moore is looking on. Bryce's mother caught the moment on her cell phone camera and then posted on to Facebook. Since then, almost 2 million people have shared it, commented, and marveled at Bryce, all from the photo his mother took that day. I had a chance to talk with Bryce about what he did.
I said a prayer.
You started praying. And can you tell me about your prayer?
Thank you, God. Thank you for giving me a wonderful day.
I couldn't believe that he acknowledged that that was a moment of, you need to stop and do the pledge. And he did, and he just ignored all the other kids around him and kept doing it. It was awesome.
He is such a cutie patootie and very, very shy, but he's very proud of what he did. And of course, his mother is too. She's had almost 2 million people comment and share this photograph, including a news team from China. Okay, well, they can see what America is like. That's a good thing.